I would just go straight to that.
I think.
Hey guys. Everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here. I am grateful to Governor Newsom, Congresswoman Eshoo, Congressman Mullen, State Senator Josh Becker, Assembly Members Ting, Papin, Bierman, President Pine of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, Ray Mueller, Board of Supervisor. They all moved mountains to get here so quickly, and it means a great deal to our community to have this tremendous show of support from our leaders. Additionally, I want to recognize the many local leadership, especially the Half Moon Bay leadership, the Board of Supervisors, the County Executive, allied law enforcement agencies, CAL FIRE, EMS, the FBI, but especially the San Mateo County Sheriff's deputies. I am proud to be your sheriff. What happened yesterday in this community is devastating. The coastal community is a very tight-knit community. Most importantly, it turned the lives of these families upside down. Many of the workers came to this country to work and provide for their families. Instead, yesterday, many of them lost family members. Moments ago, the governor asked me what I needed. Much of what we need are things that this governor has advocated for already. Better mental health services, better victim services, but most what we need is for this gun violence to end. And as the governor offered his support to this community today, I want to support him and our leaders to enhance our safety and to end the country's epidemic of gun violence. I have but I wanted to clarify the decedents. There were 5 males and 2 females. The other survivor, he is at the Stanford Hospital and he's in stable condition. Last night I had the honor of being here at the IDS Hall with the families, with the people that were directly impacted. And some of the family members received some really bad news that they lost their loved ones. But what I can tell you is that the coastal community came together. They supported one another. They were here for one another in a time of need. And I'm proud to be part of this community with them. And I want to promise to our coastal communities, and this organization will stand with you as we work to restore the sense of safety, as we were shattered yesterday afternoon with this act of violence. I want to thank all the law enforcement leaders across the nation who have offered their support to not only myself but to this community. At this time, I'd like to introduce FBI Special Division Agent Robert Tripp.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Tripp. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the FBI San Francisco Field Office. I'd like to begin by offering my deepest sympathies to the families of the victims. The FBI responded to the scene last night and provided technical and forensic support to the San Mateo Sheriff's Office. We are now transitioning to providing victim services and are in the process of identifying resources to help victims of this mass casualty event. I'd like to thank all of our partners, especially the men and women of the San Mateo Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Corpus for her outstanding leadership. And I'd like to turn things over to Vice Mayor Joaquin Jimenez.
Thank you. If I've learned anything in the last 3 years since we were affected by the pandemic, is that our coastal community, we support each other. We care for each other. My condolences goes to the families and to the farm worker community that have been affected as of yesterday, as of 3 years ago when the pandemic took our farm worker community, and it's affecting the floods. Now it is time for all of us to come together and bring the support. We have great leaders in our community that are stepping forward, taking a chance to be here for you, to be here for our community. We have a strong leadership in the county, our new elected sheriff, our law enforcement officers who responded to the shooting. Usually in this same parking lot, we celebrate the pumpkin festival, the weighing of the biggest pumpkin. This on this same site. Today we're here for a different reason. To share with you what has happened in our community. This is something that's going to change how we do things in our community. How it's going to affect our farm worker community, the fear that they have about going back to the farms. Now it's been exposed how our farm worker community is living, the living conditions. Let's not ignore that. The mental health support that they need, let's not ignore it. So I want to thank you all for taking a chance and coming to Half Moon Bay and learning about our community. Half Moon Bay, we have a heritage of farming, ranching, fishing. Many of you come to our community for the pumpkins and ignore the farm workers. Not today. We're not ignoring anybody. We are here to support each other. We are here for each other. And thank you to all our leaders for being here today. And we know it's going to be difficult, but together we're going to be able to make it through this. This incident has changed our history of Half Moon Bay. We never thought it was going to happen in our community, our beautiful community, our coastal community. But it happened. Thank you, and I'd like to introduce my good friend, new elected Ray Mueller, County Supervisor San Mateo, who's been a strong leader for our community, who's been here for our farm worker community, who's been here for our coastal community.
Thank you. So I just wanted to go ahead and give you a brief on what the county's done since last evening. So last night, following the event, what we did was, as I think many of you know, here at the IDES Center, IDES Center, my apologies, we actually brought farm workers, we brought the community in who had been at the centers at the different job locations, who had been basically at the presence of those crime scenes. We had them here. We had mental health counseling available for them. And then something beautiful happened while that mental health counseling was taking place, while that reunification was taking place. We saw the strength of Half Moon Bay rise. We saw community members come, bring food, bring clothes, bring love and support, and be here as one strong community. And the one thing I want to say is, following that, is it's in times like this, you look at all of us, you see a lot of government officials up here, but really what happens in times, and we've seen it happen in the floods, and you know what I'm talking about here in Half Moon Bay the last 3 weeks. Government does the best it can to help people, but it's neighbors who help people. And that's what we've seen happen in Half Moon Bay for the last 3 weeks during the flood, and that's what we see happening right now. I can't express enough to you the compassion I've seen in this community. There are people who I call God's mercy on this planet. One of those is Belinda Arriaga, who is here in the back, and her team at Alice. And it was the folks last night who were with us from Abundant Grace, out touching people. What I'll tell you going forward is we have been very blessed. Our county manager has stepped forward. We're going to go ahead and be providing income replacements to people who aren't going to be at these job sites, obviously for the foreseeable future while they're closed. We also provided hotel rooms. We moved them from here, so they're going to have a place, they're going to have a warm bed, and we're going to continue to do that to take care of these families going forward. I can't express enough, and I, on behalf of the county of San Mateo, how honored we are to have federal law enforcement here, our sheriff's department here, our state legislative delegation, our federal delegation, and our governor. And I watched firsthand today our governor interact with these families, and I have to tell you, it was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. So we are very fortunate in this community to have the leadership that we have, and we are very fortunate to have the residents we have in Half Moon Bay. I don't come for the pumpkins, I come for the people, and the people here are strong. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Assembly Member Phil Ting.
Thank you, Supervisor. Let me just first thank our sheriff, our county sheriff, the county, the city, for all the incredible work that they've done to make sure the community is first and foremost safe, but then also very much focused on all the families that have been impacted, the families that have been directly impacted, but then this whole city has been impacted, and all their work to really begin the healing process and the grieving process to this very horrific incident. Like many Asian Americans, I celebrated Chinese New Year over this last weekend, the Lunar New Year over this last weekend. It's our biggest holiday for the Asian American community. It's a holiday that brings people together. It's a day that we clean up our homes, focus on families and loved ones, and get ready to start the new year and really look anew. It's a time of rebirth. It's a time of really restarting everything. And to have two horrific shootings in our state, one in Monterey Park and then this one in Half Moon Bay, come on the heels of the Lunar New Year is just unimaginable. And it makes me think about everything that we've done. We traditionally say in California, we are very proud of the fact that we don't have as many mass shootings as there are in other states because of all the work we have around common sense gun legislation. But unfortunately, it is still way too easy for any individual to obtain a legal or an illegal firearm in this state. That's just a fact. We're doing everything we can to keep our community safe, but it shows that when two individuals who really absolutely have no right to have any kind of firearms, obtain it illegally or legally, there's little that we can do. And so I know that my colleagues and I at the state level, we're going to be going back to work to really think about what else we can do to further protect the community here in Half Moon Bay, but really every single one of our communities up and down the state. I know that because it was Lunar New Year on Sunday, that there's going to be many celebrations. We have our big parade in San Francisco coming up in a couple weeks. I know that all the officials up and down the state are also working very hard to make sure that all the celebrations can continue, that we can continue to work very, very hard to make sure all of our communities can really celebrate in that holiday. And with that, I'm honored to call up my colleague, Assembly Member, one of our brand new colleagues, Assembly Member Diane Papin.
Well, first of all, thank you all for being here today. I want to thank our governor who's put in a long day and a long 2 days. I appreciate you being here, appreciate our delegation being here. Up until yesterday, we were to be one of those fortunate communities that wasn't a part of that exclusive club that had a mass shooting. Now we're a part of that club, and what worries me is that club is not so exclusive anymore. This community, our hearts are broken. But I'll tell you one thing, we are resilient, our hearts will mend, and we will continue to fight the fight in California against gun violence, and indeed in the nation. So I thank you all for being here. We're going to be on the mend, but it is not a club I can say I'm glad we're in by any stretch of the imagination. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Assemblymember Mark Berman.
Thank you, Assemblymember Papin. My name is Mark Berman. I represent the 23rd Assembly District in the California State Assembly, and I want to welcome everybody to the favorite part of my favorite part of my district, which is Half Moon Bay. And for those who haven't been here before, don't know a lot about it, Half Moon Bay is as close to small town America as we get in the Bay Area. It's 30 miles south of San Francisco. It's 30 minutes west of Silicon Valley. But when you get here, you feel like you're a million miles away from all those problems. And yesterday, those problems came crashing down. That sense of peace and tranquility here in Half Moon Bay, here on the coast side, was destroyed by senseless death, by a senseless mass shooting that should not have happened. And we have workplace disagreements all over the world. The Monterey Park shooting, we have relationship disagreements all over the world. But it's only in the United States where far too often those disagreements end in mass shootings. And we've done a lot in California to try to reduce gun violence. We've been successful at reducing gun violence, but there's clearly more that we need to do. So the state is going to do everything that we can. The coast side is strong. Half Moon Bay is strong. It's such a tight-knit community where everybody looks out for each other. And we are going to look out for them. And I'm grateful to the sheriff. San Mateo County is one of the best-run counties in the state. And they've already immediately deployed resources to those who need it, and will continue to all the community members who were impacted. And want to thank the governor for being here today, because I know he doesn't want to be here today, and he's tired of these types of press conferences. And we're going to continue to do more that we can to make sure that he doesn't have to go to many more of them in the future. And we, as Vice Mayor Jimenez said, we need to do more to support the farm worker community, and we will do more to support the farm worker community here in Half Moon Bay and the coast side and across California. And with that, I want to turn it over to State Senator Josh Becker, who represents Half Moon Bay in the State Senate.
Hi, I'm Josh Becker. I represent the 13th Senate District. I want to first just thank some of the folks who have spoken here. I want to thank our council member Jimenez and the rest of the council. I want to thank our wonderful new sheriff. I want to thank our nonprofits like ALAS who have risen to the occasion and been here for the residents of this area and for the farm workers. People don't realize, but this is a significant farm worker community. We have over 100 farms. We have thousands of farm workers here, and it is often overlooked. But as Councilmember Jimenez said, not today. So for me, for my job, for my office, we have to do two things. One, we're here for the families, to listen to them, to get them whatever they need and ask them what they need and be here for them. And then second is to go back to the drawing board. As was mentioned, thanks to the leadership of our governor and the legislature, we do have some of the strongest laws in the country. We have 1/3 the deaths per capita than other states. But on a day like this, when there's 7 people dead, innocent people in our community, it doesn't seem to amount to much. So we got to go back. We need the political will in this country. It's not rocket science. Other countries do it. There's no Second Amendment right to shoot up a dance hall, a dance club, a mushroom farm. There just isn't the right to do that. So we got to get back until we get the Republicans in Congress to act at the federal level. We got to go back to the drawing board in California and look at every aspect of the process, to how you get a gun, how you store a gun, how we enforce our red flag laws, how we trace and do accountability for gun manufacturers. All of those things, we got to go back to the drawing board and do that. We owe that to the families who have lost loved ones here today, and to the residents of this state and the country. Thank you. I'd like now to bring up a leader who has been here literally for decades, working on the coast, working on farm worker housing for decades, and a leader on gun violence issues in the U.S. Congress, Congressmember Anna Eshoo.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It seems to me that there is an irony that exists, and that is that really the least amongst us in this community are the ones that are the headlines today across the country, and I think around the world, and that is the farm workers. They were killed with purpose, with intent, execution style. And this community, California, and the country is reeling from it. We have unfinished business in our country to address gun violence, this workplace violence. And that unfinished business, until it is our finished business, there will be pain in many communities. I think in the name of the lives that are lost, that what we all have recommitted to in the last handful of hours, whether it's our extraordinary law enforcement, the elected officials, people in the community, recommitting ourselves to make good on that commitment to stop the gun violence in our country. I want to thank the governor for spending the better part of his day here. When I saw him, when I was starting to say goodbye, I didn't think I was going to see him again today, I said, I hope you don't mind my saying, I hope I don't see you for a while. But his presence is important. It's important because it's uplifting to the community. I spoke to the president today. I got to speak to him just before I left my house to come over to Half Moon Bay, and he expressed his condolences and support, most importantly, his support to the people of this community. The story of America is to not only meet the challenges, but to make good on the promises. I think that this Half Moon Bay team is going to do just that. Thank you, everyone. The governor of the greatest state in the nation, Gavin Newsom.
Well, Berman's right. I didn't want to be here, and I don't want to be here. I headed down. I'm processing all this in real time. I headed down 2 days ago after hearing around Monterey Park, and my first instinct was to get to my desk and open up a file. And literally out dropped the file was a bunch of these yellow cards from my talking points in San Jose, the ones at the Gilroy Garlic Festival, and then the ones literally almost 4 years ago to the week, related to the Thousand Oaks shooting where 13 people were gunned down at the Borderline Bar and Grill. Literally, these are the notes, one of them. I went down to Monterey Park and was invited to 3 press conferences like this, and I said, nope, nope, nope. I watched them on my cell phone instead as I walked around the community. And I'll tell you what, I did that selfishly because I didn't have the guts to come up and say the same things we hear again and again and again. That was covered. Sheriff Luna did a magnificent job. Local electeds did a magnificent job. We made sure of that as well. But I walked and listened, knocked on doors, walked into businesses that were still open and just listened to people. Remember someone rolling up, young woman, 3 young girls in the back, and she, can I talk to you? She starts tearing up, and she introduced me her 10-year-old daughter, 8-year-old daughter, and 3-year-old daughter, and said, can you do me a favor, and can you tell them it's going to be okay? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, they're supposed to be in school, but my 8-year-old said, no way. I said, how's her 10-year-old? She goes, doing remarkably. 3-year-old, she was just rolling around in the back. And the 8-year-old was so fearful because she heard the gunshots. And she knew. She actually knew they weren't firecrackers. She, in and of itself is remarkable. And she didn't sleep the night before. And I looked over at her and I said, it's going to get better. And all I thought to myself, if she was like my 8-year-old daughter, thank God she didn't do this. She didn't ask me to pinky promise. Because I wasn't so sure. Walked back the next morning, met with more merchants. I visited the hospitals, met a young man on life support. Next morning, I find out he passed away. I met someone in the hospital, and he said, hey, Governor, thanks for being here, but when am I getting the hell out of here? And I said, well, let's get the doctor. He says, no, I'm going to be fine. His leg was shattered by the gunfire. He goes, I can't afford to spend any more time here. I don't have the money. His mom arrived, Cantonese speaking. His only son arrived. And they came over to me worried he's going to lose his job in the warehouse the next day unless he can go back to work. Joaquin talks about inequality, things being exposed. That's exactly what we experienced here today. Farm workers of all stripes, Latino descent, Asian descent, Asian gunmen. 39 now of these mass shootings, and we're only at day 24 of the new year. I was looking back at these same notes, and it's right here, right up on the right corner. It says Aurora. And it goes down to Midland, Orlando, Buffalo, Poway, Parkland, San Jose, Sutherland, Sandy Hook, Boulder. And I started writing in Monterey Park. And now I got to write in Half Moon Bay. What the hell is going on? But it was said, and it's said all the time, only in America. Only in America. Number one in gun ownership, number one in gun deaths. It's not even complicated. And guess what? This happened on our watch. Society becomes how we behave. We've allowed this to happen. Doesn't have to be this way. Wasn't always this way. A few decades ago, we didn't experience these kind of things. We've allowed this to happen. And I feared 2 days ago that Monterey Park would give way to other headlines. Little did I know I'd be up here to give away 2 or 3 days from now to whatever the headlines will bring. Meanwhile, the trauma and the damage, the devastation is felt for generations in some cases. Communities being torn asunder, no one feeling safe. All those farm workers, like, can I get a job someplace else? I can't go back. And by the way, some of you should see where these folks are living, the conditions they're in. Living in shipping containers, living in shipping containers. Folks getting $9 an hour. You want to verify the California minimum wage? Not $9 an hour. No health care, no support, no services, but taking care of our health, providing a service to each and every one of us every single day. So this whole thing is just a stacking of issues that come to the fore. But the one common denominator are these damn guns. I got no ideological opposition to someone owning a gun responsibly. But what the hell is wrong with us that we allow these weapons of war and large capacity clips out on the streets and sidewalks? Why have we allowed this culture, this pattern to continue? What happens in every one of these cases, I watch those same evening newscasts you do. Well, we couldn't solve for this with this particular law. We can solve for a pattern. We get so consumed by an incident that we lose sight of the pattern. I'm proud of California. Don't think for a second this state has stepped aside. We've taken responsibility. We believe it's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future. We've led the nation. We've led the national conversation in gun safety. No state in America has done more than the state of California. And the data bears out the efficacy, the success of gun safety. Gun safety saves lives, but notably, not in every case. No one's naive. So don't point to that as proof of its failure. Quite the contrary. Gun safety saves lives. The modern gun safety movement started with a guy named Ronald Reagan. Republican Party should look that guy up. 1967. Great leadership here in 1989 with the assault weapons ban, led by Senator Feinstein a few years later after another tragedy in 101 California in the 1994 assault weapons ban. That worked. That worked until it expired in 2004, and we started to see an increase in mass shootings. We've led the nation on background checks, closing loopholes. We led the nation on red flag warnings. We led the nation on waiting periods. We led the nation across a series of gun safety measures, and the data bears it out. We've seen a 55% reduction in gun deaths when we initiated those progressive reforms from 1993 to 2017. And you look at our gun death rate, it's 37% below the national average. Gun safety works. We will not back away from that resolve. But we can't do this alone. And with all due respect, we feel like we are. And this is where, and forgive me, what the hell do I have to lose? Well, you just got to call some folks out. I'm still waiting for Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the House of Representatives, who purports to represent the people of the state of California, a proud and remarkable district in Kern County. We haven't heard one damn word from him. Not since Monterey Park, not what happened here, not one word, not one expression of prayers even, condolences, nothing. And it surprised nobody. Where's he been on gun safety reform? Where's the Republican Party been on gun safety reform? They blocked it every step of the way. One state can't do it alone. Shame on them. And shame on those that allow and perpetuate that to be rewarded politically. Shame on them. Shame on these judges that are rolling back the laws that we've established in the state of California. Shame on them. You deserve better. We deserve better. And so I'm here processing, like all of us, the absurdity, the theater, look around, of absurdity, only in America. And I'll close on this. Really hit home to me today, meeting immigrants from China. And their translator didn't even know how to translate these words. When the gunfire occurred, they were witnesses. Their friends got shot, killed. They went over, people had been shot, and they thought they were acting. They'd never heard a sound like that. They'd never seen a scene like that. They didn't even know how to comprehend a gunshot wound. It's not something they ever experienced. They don't even know how to comprehend that. Only in America do we see this kind of carnage, this kind of chaos, this kind of destruction of communities and lives and confidence and a sense of safety and belonging, which we all yearn for, regardless of our political stripes or our lot in life. So thank you to the first responders, the rock stars behind us, the paramedics that were on the scene. We pray for this one individual, and it was because not just of prayers, but a couple of young men behind me, that if he survives, he will have survived because of their extraordinary work. Thank you to that young man, that 26-year-old Brandon and I met yesterday. This remarkable kid whose aunt told me, I can't believe it was Brandon. We all know Brandon. He was so shy. He's such an empath. I remember him, he said, aunt, when he was a kid, and he would just immediately give all his toys to the rest of the family. He was just that kid. And when we learned it was Brandon, we were so proud. Selfless. Brandon looked at me. He said, I knew I was going to die. I heard a click. I turned around. I think he was about to shoot me. I didn't know. I literally physically was submitting to that moment. And then something came over to me. And I grabbed that weapon. And I wrestled it away. He's still in shock. He doesn't even understand. We talk about heroes. Sometimes we talk about it a little too much. Kind of loses its resonance. Boy, I met one yesterday. And you know what? If Brandon can do it, we all have that capacity. And so it's in that spirit, Joaquin's spirit, and the other electeds that said it. Thank you to the community for not giving up, not giving into this cynicism. Thank you for believing in each other. Thanks for showing up today. You wouldn't be here if you've given up. Thank you for your resolve. Thank you for knowing in your core, we can figure this out, because we can. We know what to do. It's not even complicated. We do. And we don't have to do this again and again and again. To my state, final words. We were here just a few days ago with Congresswoman and the President, 22 days, 32 trillion gallons of water. Mother Nature's fury unleashed. This community, communities across this state. It's been a hard month and a half. I'm mindful of that. After 2 years of all that stacking of stress with COVID and feeling isolated and disconnected, I'm so proud of California. I'm so proud of all of you. I mean it. So when Anna Eshoo says this is the greatest state in the union, man, she means that. And I feel that. I couldn't be more prideful to represent you and to have 4 extraordinary kids that want to grow up feeling safe, feeling embraced, feeling protected, feeling connected, and feeling respected. Thank you all for being out here today, and thank you remarkable leaders behind us, including the sheriff and her team have done a magnificent job. We're all here to take any questions.
Governor, twice in 48 hours you're speaking to the families of victims of a mass shooting. What do you say to those families in this moment?
We have your back. You matter. We care. We're here when you leave. Cameras turn. You're off to the next. We'll have their back. I'm really proud of this, and thank you, Sheriff, for acknowledging. Thank you to the Budget Chair, Phil Ting. I mean, what we've done in the last few years to address Asian hate, we're not reacting to it. We've been leading the nation in that respect. The money we put up for victim services, I'm proud of that. So we're well resourced. We were making that place known, those investments known down in Monterey Park with the county sheriff. They had $8.7 million directly to take care of that man that said, I can't afford my hospital bill. We said, we got your back, don't worry. Those resources are there. I see the city administrator here, 2 remarkable supervisors. They've been writing checks directly to some of the folks that were impacted. I say we have your back, and we're here not just today, tomorrow, but we're here for the long haul.
Governor, I want to follow up on a statement that you made just a few minutes ago. You said that the survivors are now in hotel rooms and that they were living in conditions that are probably not right for somebody that's working in a farm.
I don't know where you.
Amidst this tragedy, did you also unearth that perhaps, and please clarify if I heard this wrong, but are they living in slave-like conditions in this farm?
I don't want to categorize that. Look, I've spent a lot of time in this state, in every part of this state. I'm not new to some of the struggles and challenges of farm workers. I just signed a card check bill for farm workers, which no other state in the country has done, and we've done more in farm worker housing. I think we just put $100 million this year in farm worker housing, and our commitment through the pandemic was second to none, regardless of your immigration status. This state's the only state in America that even provides universal health care. So I'm not naive to these conditions. I'm just expressing the conditions that were expressed to me. And I want folks to know what we don't know. And I want folks to just be mindful. You know, when we talk about farm workers, talking about human beings, kids. We had 5 or 6 kids we were meeting with. They're sitting in the corner. Thank God. Most of them were so young, I just pray that they don't fully appreciate and understand what's going on. And folks stacked up, 6 people, small little trailers, and some even worse conditions. These floods, you know, living in and around squalor and mud, losing furniture over the course of the last few months. Human beings taking care of you in the middle of floods. Enrique was describing folks out there picking strawberries in the middle of the floods with water rushing knee high. And he's got the evidence to back that up. There every single day. And what do all the farm workers say today? We have no money tomorrow because we're not going to get paid for today.
That's the reality. And that exists and persists in many states across this country. And the state is owning up to it, trying to be more transparent. But those conditions are well established and known.
Governor, California, as you mentioned, has more gun laws than any other state in the country. And given Congress right now and these federal judges and Supreme Court that are targeting many of these laws, what realistically, feasibly works to pass here in California that can strengthen this?
Well, we continue to iterate. We always are self-reflected. Last year we passed another dozen gun safety laws. A right of private action for individuals to take weapons of war off the streets and ghost guns. So we continue to lead by example, and we'll reflect on exactly what occurred once all the facts are collected in terms of Monterey Park, what happened down here, what occurred in Oakland last night. It occurs day in and day out across the streets of the state. But we're not going to back away from our resolve and commitment because it works. We know gun safety saves lives, period, full stop. And the data bears no contrary evidence. And it's incredibly important. If people want to know how to solve this, take what California's done, but we are not isolated. Many parts, one body. Garlic Festival, I think it may be these damn notes where it talked about the individual may have gotten that gun from Nevada, a border state. Federal government needs to do its job, but let's call it out. You have one party that are obstructionists. You have a leader of that party from the state of California hasn't said a damn word about these mass atrocities in his home state to farm workers he purports to lay claim to care about. And if I seem passionate and intense about it, it's because I'm damn sick and tired of this stuff. I'm sick of this. I don't want to ever see this again. I don't want to see you again in this condition. I'm serious. I'm not making this up about all these damn notes. How many of these governors have you seen doing the same damn dance we're doing here today? But we're not throwing our arms up. We're taking responsibility. We're leading by example. But I'll tell you what, unless there's a pattern interrupt and we start calling people out, by name, Judge Benitez, by name, Judge Nelson, I know that may not be becoming, but I'll tell you what, this isn't becoming. I'm not interested in the status quo ante. Do your damn job. You care about public safety? BS. Unless you are addressing the #1 cause of death for children last year, and that's guns. Don't lay claim you give a damn about public safety. All those people on Fox Primetime. Really? Crime's your #1 issue? You're not going to deal with the leading cause of crime, which is guns? And you still think people should have large capacity magazine clips and weapons of damn war? What frauds. Absolute frauds.
Governor, what's your sense of what you're...
Well, we've done it across, well, first of all, we have universal health care. Regardless of your immigration status, we have very intensive workers that are well established, that have gotten strengthened because of our COVID program, including our harvest to housing programs, including the farm worker housing budget that we passed last year, the intensive services that are provided through extraordinary organizations like ALIS and others that are supported at the county level. We help support the counties in those efforts. We continue to do more as it relates to the unionization to give these workers a voice, and we signed that landmark bill last year for farm workers to organize, which may be the most potent and powerful answer to your question. So this state has a myriad of strategies and interventions, and we have a lot of work to do.
Governor, the one that you spoke with, the one that you spoke with that was very worried about his paying for the hospital bill, he obviously was not aware of universal health care. So tangibly, how do you get that message to each and every one of them?
Oh, we have a lot of work, and we're in the process of implementing it. He wasn't aware of the victim services. Turns out he does have Medi-Cal and does have that support, but there may be some copay issues, and we'll help address that. That's the last thing someone as a victim of violence should be worried about at that moment. They should be worried about their health and their family's health, and we're going to make sure we're there for them.
Who should be allowed your owner to assault weapons?
I'm sorry?
Many of these farmer workers have no rights at their workplaces. They're mistreated by the process, and they just don't have the courage to they're documented or because they don't speak the same language. And they go to this type of organizations like not all of the access to organizations, because this is not the only farmer workers community here in California. There are so many. So what are you going to do to ensure their safety at their workplace? Because this could have been prevented. We may be so one that knew that person spoken out.
We're going to have to do more to fund programs like ALIS. We're going to have to do more to do the kind of outreach we've been doing with community-based organizations all up and down the state of California. Things that we initiated at a new scale during the COVID efforts. We have to continue to do that across the level of supports beyond just the pandemic. And we're in the process of doing all of that. We provide free legal services. We provide all kinds of supports that are unique in the United States, including the kind of supports that we're offering as it relates to addressing a fundamental issue, and that's housing. And housing scarcity is a problem all across the state. And I think that the challenge is, for some folks, you shut these places down, they got no place to go either. And they have no income, no support. These are complicated issues. No one's naive about that, and we're addressing them as much or more than most states. But again, we have a responsibility to scale these efforts. Well, that's done in a culturally competent way at the community level. And that vision that the state has is realized hyper locally. And that's, with humility I say that. I'm very mindful of that. That for us just to pass a program doesn't solve the problem. It's the point you were asking as it relates to healthcare. No one knows they have the rights or access or has the confidence. We've got to meet people where they are. That's why programs like ours are so important.
Governor, you said there was a farm that was claimed its employees $9 an hour.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Expounding on that.
I just leave it at that. I mean, guys, come on. That's which one? There are probably 100 of them. I mean, there are probably 600 of them. Within, there are bad actors out there. There are good actors out there too. There's some incredible ag leaders in this community. Incredible ag leaders that raise the bar for everybody. And they're bad apples.
Governor, a lot of Asian Americans are afraid these two cases will bring more Stop Asian hate case. So how do you think, can you make a comment with that?
Well, look, I'm very mindful of Lunar New Year. What happened on Lunar New Year's Eve, day after. We had this tragic experience. We're supposed to be celebrating in the next 2 weeks or so, Lunar New Year's. I'm proud. Look, the Asian community is such a source of pride and strength and vibrancy to the state of California. No state can lay claim to more people of Asian descent. I grew up in San Francisco. A third of our population Asian descent. I live in a state where 27% of us are foreign born. Over a third in San Mateo County. What a gift. Majority minority state. But I'm also mindful we saw hate crimes go up 177% against Asians last year. A little more modest in some parts of the country. And we have to do more. Working with Phil Ting and others, we were able to put $156 million in the budget last year to stop Asian hate, and supported 79 community-based organizations already, and we're continuing to do more in terms of collecting data, work partnership with UCLA and others to disseminate campaigns, and not just to focus on hate crimes, but the things that aren't reported, like bullying and harassment and workplace discrimination, people that aren't served, the stuff that's happening on social media, and to call out elected officials that want to use phrases like Kung Flu or sit there mocking the Asian community. You see it. You see these same folks out there talking about the China flu or the China virus. It's the way they say it. It's not just what they say. You see right there racial priming every single damn night. You know exactly who you are and they are. That all has to be called out. And that's mindful about that as well.
Governor, it was mentioned that the victims in yesterday's tragedy were killed execution style. Do we have any more details?
I'll leave that to the sheriff. And this is a good opportunity for me to step back. Madam Sheriff?
Sheriff, what can you share? What can you share?
Yeah, we're working closely with the district attorney's office, and just because of I can't compromise an investigation. So when we're able to, we will get that information.
Is there anything you can share, Sheriff? Is there any details at this point that you can share that's been already published, but the latest statistics?
I mean, additionally, just what I shared this afternoon, that earlier this morning, I made an error in how I reported out the decedents, and so I clarified that today. But yeah, as soon as we're able to, I know that the community wants to know more, and as soon as we're able to, we will. Transparency is important to us, but we also need to secure the investigation as well.
Sheriff, the challenges that the law enforcement is facing, the last 24 hours we're all learning about this community that we didn't know much about. What challenges does that present, and how is the Sheriff's Office handling it? Language culture.
Yeah, well, we have, it's very important for us to have our deputies represent the communities that we serve. So we do have deputies that speak the different languages. We do have deputies that speak Mandarin and Cantonese, Spanish, but there's always challenges when we were dealing with a, multi-complex, different crime scenes. We've never had one of these shootings before in our county, and so we needed more resources, and we were fortunate enough to have those resources through our allied agencies and federal agencies. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. 想背着背包自我放风出去走走吗？人们真的很需要一个和自己合拍的背包。一个粉红色的背包可以改变一天的心情。如果你帮他背背包，他会记得你的贴心。中天文创品牌 Keep Going 系列多功能双肩后背包，樱花粉、奶茶色两款，内有夹层可装 notebook， 即刻入手，请上快点购。有您的支持，中天 Keep Going。